So what do freaks have to do with heroism? So heroes are freaks. Heroes stick out when everyone else fits in. Heroes see strength where everyone else sees weakness. My premise today is really, really simple. It's that what makes us weird makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. I know a little bit about being weird. One of the first things that people ask me when they meet me is, how tall are you? The answer to that is I'm 6'6", but I'm 6'9" in heels. And one of the problems with growing up tall and growing up poor is you grow up faster than your family's ability to get you pants. I grew up in a trailer park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and my pants never made it all the way down to my shoes. I always had high water pants or floods, and people made fun of me. But my mom didn't want me to feel bad. She told me they were capri pants, and they were coming back in style. I'm 6'6". My wife is just 5'3". We've been married for 20 years. If you wonder how that works, just realize that in our relationship, deodorant is much more important than breath mints. So I was always different, but I wished I wasn't different. I was always different, but I wished I was normal. Because what I was taught, and what I think a lot of us are taught by our teachers, by our parents, by our managers, by society, is not that what makes us weird makes us wonderful, but that what makes us weird is what makes us awful. What makes us weak is what makes us wrong, not what makes us strong. Robert Quinn said in his book, Deep Change, that deviance will always generate external pressures to conform. When you perform beyond the norms, the systems will adjust and try to make you normal. Deviance will always generate external pressures to conform. When you act differently, we ask heroes to act differently, to do things that most other people won't do, and yet, when we ask them to do that, they live in a world that when you try to do things differently, pushes you to be normal, pushes you to be average, pushes you to be like everyone else. One of the reasons for this is something psychologists call negativity bias. Every one of us has negativity bias. It's a fundamental part of human nature. It's hardwired into our brain. And what negativity bias says is that in any given situation, we tend to see what's wrong instead of what's right, even if what's wrong is really, really small and what's right is really, really big. So imagine that I have a big stain on my shirt. Imagine that this morning at breakfast I spilled a big baseball-sized stain all over the front of my shirt. What negativity bias says is that every single one of you would be staring at that stain and thinking negative things about me as a human being because I'm unable to keep myself clean. What it also says is there's not a single person in this room, no matter how positive and how encouraging you are, who'd be looking at that stain and thinking to themselves, that Dave Rendall's doing a good job. Because 98% of that shirt is stain-free. Nice job, Dave, nice job. Okay? And yet that's the actual objective reality. The actual objective reality is 98% of this enormous shirt is stain-free and only 2% is stained. But if you were asked to evaluate my appearance at the end of this session, most of you would not only give me a failing grade, you'd give me a 0 because you shouldn't have stains on your clothes. We tend to see what's wrong instead of what's right in any given situation. And we tend to see difference as wrong. We seek it out, and once we find it, we want to change it, we want to fix it. And when other people see it in us, they want to change it and they want to fix it. For my whole life, I was different, and I was different in a way people didn't find valuable. I was always in trouble for 3 things at school. I couldn't sit still, I couldn't be quiet, and I couldn't do what I was told. Every day, teachers told me I was obnoxious, and I was rebellious, and I was inappropriate, and I was immature, and I had no self-control and no self-discipline. And if I didn't fix those things, I was going to end up homeless and living in a van down by the river. Sooner or later, they'd send me to the principal's office. I remember I was in 3rd grade, so I was 8 years old. I got sent to the principal's office. He sat me down on his lap, which seems questionable now looking back on it. And he told me, Dave, there's 3 kinds of bad people in this world. There's bad people, there's really bad people, and there's people who are too far gone. I was 8. Now I want to talk about intentions here for a second, because he had the best intentions. He thought he was helping me. He was trying to give me advice that would help me succeed. What he was saying is, Dave, you need to learn to sit still, be quiet, and do what you're told. That's a really fundamental skill. And if you don't have the basic self-control to even do that, how are you going to do the more complex things that are required by life? You need to learn to sit still, be quiet, and do what you're told. He told me the story of 3 kinds of bad people because he wanted me to understand that, Dave, you're on the wrong path, and at the end of the wrong path is a cliff. And once you fall off that cliff, you get hurt so badly, you never have a chance to get back on the right path again. He thought he was helping me by helping me to see my weaknesses so that I could fix them. Ken Robinson said that many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not. because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized. Let's break that down for a second. The thing they were good at, these are highly talented, brilliant, creative people. We know that from the way their life turned out, but when they were in school, before anybody knew the ending, before anybody knew how it would turn out, the thing they were good at, their strength, wasn't valued. It was seen as neutral or ignored, or was actually stigmatized, was seen as a weakness. We take the best things about people oftentimes, but because they're unique things about them, we turn them into weaknesses. We fail to see the strength and we see only weakness instead. We fail to see the positive and we see only the negative. I was in trouble my whole life because I couldn't sit still, be quiet, and do what I was told. Now I get paid to travel the world doing three things. I get paid to stand up, not sit down. I get paid to talk, not to be quiet. And I get paid to run my own business, not to do what other people tell me to do. I realized that thank you. What I realized too late, or not necessarily too late, but I wish someone would have told me when I was a lot younger, which is why I'm passionate about sharing this message with the world, is that every single one of my weaknesses was indeed a weakness. No one was wrong about that. I could not sit still, be quiet, and do what I was told. But all of those weaknesses were directly connected to strengths, which were my unique characteristics, which had the potential to contribute to my success and to the meaning and the purpose of my life. And I started to wonder if that was true for other people as well. If strength and weakness were connected in ways that we don't normally see. So a good example of how this works is height. So it's good to be tall. I'm 6'6", and that's 99.9th percentile for height. It's good to be tall because we tend to pay tall people more than we pay smaller people for the same work. Psychologists have proved over and over again that we tend to think taller people are smarter than they actually are. I think we are actually smarter, but science disagrees with me. We tend to vote for the taller person for elected office. If we compare the heights of two people, we tend to vote for the taller person. This isn't just tall people prejudice. Small people vote for the person that they think is taller. So it's good to be tall until it's not. I fly sometimes every single day of the week, and before I can get on an airplane, the flight attendant sees me coming and says, "Sir, you need to watch your head," which is hard to do if you've ever tried. And so I try to get on the airplane. I get on the airplane like this, right? And I get on the airplane, some of you are like, yeah, whatever, we've ducked before. Yeah, you've ducked, but then you're used to re-emerging on the other side. There's no re-emerging for me, that's just it. That's all there is, and I shuffle to my seat, and I get there, and maybe I'm in an exit row or a bulkhead seat, or maybe I get upgraded to first class. So I'm okay once I'm sitting down, but sooner or later I have to go to the bathroom. And if you don't fit in the middle of the plane, where it's at its tallest, you definitely don't fit on the side of the plane where they have the bathroom. Now, some people think I exaggerate this next part, so I took the liberty of an airplane bathroom selfie. So just to give you some sense of what's happening here, that's my left shoulder on the ceiling of the airplane bathroom, on the ceiling. And it's not the top of my left shoulder, it's the side of my left shoulder. And what you also can't see is that even in order to be in there, I have to stand sort of like this. So when I get in the bathroom, I close the door behind me. I don't fit very well in there, and I need to go to the bathroom, but I'm here, but the toilet is over there, and I have things that need to go in the toilet. And so I try to get closer, but the ceiling goes like this. So it just pushes my face closer and closer and closer to the toilet, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I've designed something I call the limbo yoga approach. What you do is you press your face and upper body into the side of the airplane. You sort of form your body, match the plane, while you move your lower body in and rotate. Now there's two problems with this approach. Number one, there's not a lot of visual information about what's about to happen here. The second problem is that you're not getting the right parts really closer to the toilet. And one time I was sort of in that position, I was really working it, and I looked, and I was like, whoa, there is a sink right there. That seems a whole lot higher and a whole lot closer. That seems custom designed for what needs to happen here. Now, what's the moral of that story? The moral of that story is very, very simple. It's good to be tall until it's not. It's an advantage and it's a disadvantage. And I don't get to accept the advantages of my height without also accepting the disadvantages of my height. They're connected, and there's no way to separate the two from each other. Peter Drucker said it this way. He said, strong people always have strong weaknesses too. Where there are peaks, there are valleys. We love the peaks, but we hate the valleys. But what we have to recognize is they're connected to each other. And there's no such thing as a person with high peaks without low valleys. There's no such a person as all strengths and no weaknesses. And when we see the connection between those two, it changes the way we treat ourselves. It changes the way we treat other people. I think a good way to think about this is side effects. Everybody has side effects. Just like every medicine has side effects, every person has side effects. And the only way to reduce the side effects of a medicine are to reduce the benefits of the medicine, to take less or to use less. And when we try to fix our weaknesses, when we try to fix other people's weaknesses, when we try to fix those side effects, all we do is end up damaging and reducing the benefits that those people offer to the world and in their relationships and in society. George Eliot said, every limit has a beginning as well as an ending. In other words, every weakness opens something up as well as also shutting something down. So what's an example of that? Let's take dyslexia. Dyslexia means you mix up your letters and you mix up your words, so you mix up your sentences, so you mix up your paragraphs, so you struggle to read and you struggle to write, and if you struggle to read and write in school, you're going to struggle in school, and we've been taught if you struggle in school, you'll struggle in life. But recently they were doing a study of millionaires in the United Kingdom and discovered that 50% of the millionaires in their study had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the general population have dyslexia. They were doing another study of entrepreneurs in the United States and discovered that 33% of the entrepreneurs had dyslexia, even though only 10% of people in the general population have dyslexia. Ingvar Kamprad is the billionaire founder of IKEA. He has dyslexia. Richard Branson is the billionaire founder of the Virgin series of companies. He has dyslexia. And you might be thinking, if you're a critical thinker, you might be saying, well, Dave, maybe they're not as excited about having dyslexia as you are. But they actually asked him that question. They said, Richard Branson, how has dyslexia affected your success? And he said, strangely, I think my dyslexia has helped. Paul Orfalea was fired from 4 different family businesses. And before that, he was kicked out of 4 high schools because he was so dyslexic. So since he couldn't work for his family, since he didn't have a very good education, his only hope was to start his own business, and he did, and it was called FedEx Kinko's. Once he sold it to FedEx for $2.4 billion. And he says it this way, he says, I think everyone should have dyslexia. Okay? He sees the peak that goes with his valley so clearly that if you offered him a pill to take away his dyslexia, he wouldn't take it, but he seems like he's currently working on a pill to give you dyslexia if you would like to join him. This last weekend I ran and biked and swam a half Ironman triathlon. I started off by swimming 1.2 miles, then I biked 56 miles, then I ran 13.1 miles. It took me exactly 6 hours and 40 minutes of continuous motion to do that. Thank you. I'm hyperactive, right? And people clap now for what I just told you, but when I was a kid, nobody clapped. I got punished and I got criticized for the very thing that I currently get rewarded and praised for. And that's part of what I'm trying to communicate today. One of the pieces of advice that we give to people who are unusual, and when we miss their strength and only see the weakness, is just tone it down. Just dial it back. Just ease up a little bit. And what I'm here to tell you today is to crank it up. That what makes us weird makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. And if we really believed that was true, we'd try to get weirder and we'd try to get weaker. So here's what I want you to remember. Next time you're tempted to try to fit in and to try to conform, next time you're worried about being different and sticking out, remember that what makes us weird makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. Next time you're tempted to criticize someone else for being different, for being weird, for being strange, remember that what makes us weird makes us wonderful, and what makes us weak also makes us strong. Thank you very much.